in advance. It's been months since Mirakin woke up, and Jin has been visiting the secret library regularly. While Mirakin is eating cake, Jin asks why he fought with Temur, the first patriarch. Mirakin retorts that it was 1,000 years ago. How could he expect him to remember the details? Jin has discovered one thing about Mirakin. He has a crazy obsession with strawberry pies. Mirakin interrupts his train of thought to ask whether that's all the strawberry pies, indicating there's a serious shortage. He starts counting the pies and remarks there are only 7. He then changes the topic, asking Jin what he usually does when he visits the secret library. Jin Runcandle replies that he's transcribing the secret tomes and copying them to take with him, because if he removes the originals, his visits might be discovered. Mirakin asks if he actually understands what he's copying. He admits that he comprehends about 30%. He doesn't know much more than that. Mirakin tells him not to be too hard on himself. He's doing remarkably well for his age, especially when compared to others who don't even attempt to do what he's doing. Jin Runcandle acknowledges that it's generally true, but he points out that he's a Runcandle, and certain things are expected. He has 12 older siblings, as well as his father, mother, and elders, all of whom set high standards. He states that he needs to achieve more if he wants to surpass them. Jin then asks Mirakin if the first patriarch, Temur Runcandle, would have understood much of this book. He considers where he currently stands compared to the greatest figures in history. Mirakin tells him that when Temur was his age, he couldn't comprehend a single sentence from that book. However, theory isn't the same as real combat, and Temur fought skillfully without needing to read such texts. He reassures Jin Runcandle that he has talent, though perhaps not as much as Temur. Jin asks if this means he will never be able to match the first patriarch. Mirakin dismisses this notion, pointing out that Jin is the contractor of Solderit, just like Temur, and he possesses the intelligence to understand complex books. He reminds Jin that he's still young and advises him to train consistently without getting impatient. If he does that, Mirakin believes he could become as strong as Temur, but if he does not surpass him. Jin asks Mirakin if he really thinks he could surpass Temur. Mirakin responds affirmatively and asks if Jin knows Solderit's nickname. Jin admits he doesn't. Mirakin tells him it's infinite, signifying that Solderit's power has no limits. This also implies that as a contractor, his potential is boundless. He gestures towards him to emphasize his point. Mirakin playfully pats Jin on the back and tells him not to be a downer, promising to teach him a new skill to lift his spirits. Jin Runcandle asks what the skill is. Mirakin replies that it's called spiritual release. Jin asks what spiritual release entails, and Mirakin explains that it's a fundamental skill for those who use spiritual power, both the beginning and the end of spiritual mastery. However, he warns that it's extremely dangerous if attempted without proper training, so Jin needs to learn it carefully and patiently. Jin agrees and asks what he should do first. Mirakin instructs him to start with mana release. Jin questions why he needs to learn mana release, considering he's done it hundreds of times in his past life. Mirakin clarifies that spiritual release involves both mana release and mana transfer. To excel at spiritual release, he must master these two components. Mirakin adds that they will be training on these skills for the next 2 or 3 months to ensure Jin's safety and success. Jin Runcandle thinks that 2 to 3 years is a long time. Mirakin explains that he can't teach advanced skills if Jin doesn't even understand the basics. Jin then demonstrates his magic and asks if he can learn spiritual release now. Mirakin is surprised and asks how Jin managed to do that. Jin responds that he's been able to do it before. Mirakin is astonished and asks if he can also perform mana transfer, noting that only the brightest of geniuses can achieve that level of skill. If he can do it, he might truly be talented. Mirakin decides to show Jin what spiritual release looks like, and Jin enthusiastically agrees. Mirakin explains that spiritual power is derived from shadows, and every shadow in the world is born from Solderit's will. As he speaks, shadows begin to appear in the room. Mirakin says that Solderit is the master of all shadows, and as Solderit's sole contractor, Jin has access to this power. Jin is taken aback by the emerging shadows. Mirakin then transforms into a large shadow, demonstrating spiritual release, and asks Jin how he feels about this. He tells him that this is what spiritual release is like. Meanwhile, Lunar Runcandle slays a dragon, and a servant reports that this area has been cleared. The mission will be complete if they clear 5 more areas. She acknowledges and instructs the servant to let the knights rest. She estimates that 4 more months should be enough to complete the mission. She then asks, almost casually, what 9-year-old children usually like. The scene shifts to half a year after meeting Muraken. The Tona twins have turned 10 years old and are preparing to leave the Storm Castle. Daytona Runcandle stands near the carriage and announces their departure. Daytona Runcandle bids farewell, saying they'll see him later. Jin Runcandle responds with a simple okay, bye. After a while, Gilly arrives, holding a cake, and wishes Jin Runcandle a happy 9th birthday. He expresses his gratitude, thanking everyone. He then asks if he could share the cake with everyone, to which Gilly agrees. Knight Khan interrupts suddenly, addressing Jin Runcandle as the young master and apologizing for the interruption. Jin Runcandle inquires about the reason for the interruption. He informs Jin that Lady Luna is visiting. Jin reflects that Luna Runcandle is the first flag bearer of the Runcandle clan, a 9-star knight, and the eldest among the 13 siblings. Known as the White Whale, Luna is the most powerful of the Runcandle siblings, yet she renounced any ambition to become the next patriarch. She stepped away from the clan's ruthless succession battles and chose to live independently. Because of her solitary approach, she has never shown much interest in her siblings, to the point where she feels more like a stranger than family. This created a considerable distance between her and the rest of the family. Jin considers the reason for Luna's sudden visit to Storm Castle. He wonders if something significant happened within the clan, or if she discovered that he had been accessing the secret library. He stands before Luna, who comments that he has grown a lot. He remarks that if she had given him some advance notice, he would have worn something more appropriate for her visit. Luna playfully taps him on the head and responds that it's cute, then asks whether she really needs to give notice to see her little brother. Noting that he seems a bit uneasy, she inquires if he is feeling unwell. Jin clarifies that it's not that. He's just a bit nervous, admitting this is the first time he's been so close to her, so he's naturally a bit on edge. Luna picks up on his discomfort and thinks about how the Runcandle family tradition encourages siblings to compete and take from one another. She wonders if Jin suspects she has come to keep him in check. Luna then acknowledges that she might have been inconsiderate and apologizes, suggesting that she may have overlooked the fact that, despite his age, he is still a member of the Runcandle clan. Jin asks what she means, and Luna sees Gilly standing nearby. She realizes that she might have been too casual with him, given his position in the family, and apologizes again. She then kneels down and requests a private conversation with Jin, asking if he could ask his nanny and guardian knights to step aside. He thinks it's interesting that his big sister wants to speak with just him. He doesn't know why, but it doesn't seem like a bad thing. He agrees, and she explains that the reason for her sudden visit is to tell him something important. When he asks what it is, she reveals that after their father visited him, his display of power drew the attention of all their siblings, which means that the moment he leaves Storm Castle, they'll be on high alert, watching his every move to keep him in check. Luna says that she doesn't want him to get caught up in the internal family conflicts and miss out on happiness. She wishes for him to avoid the toxic customs of the Runcandle clan and not suffer because of them. Jin reflects that this might be why his big sister gave up on becoming the patriarch. She didn't want to be part of the family's violent power struggles. He wonders why, if she didn't want him to get hurt in the battle among siblings, she didn't give him a similar warning in his past life. He wonders if it's because he wasn't worth giving such advice to in the past, or if the other siblings didn't view him as a threat. He expresses gratitude for her concern, but he clarifies that he has no intention of staying out of the fight. She insists that she's serious and isn't warning him out of fear that he might become a threat to her. He acknowledges her sincerity, but mentions that he's already experienced an assassination attempt. Luna is shocked and asks if he's saying that a sibling tried to kill him at Storm Castle. He confirms this, adding that this is why he's committed to the battle. Luna demands to know who tried to kill him, but he admits he doesn't know yet. He adds that although someone made an attempt on his life, he's fine now. He shares that he's happy she made him realize not all his siblings hate him. Luna acknowledges that and remarks that, in that case, he's already entangled in the clan's filthy power struggles. She expresses sadness over this and hugs him. He is surprised to find that Luna can be so empathetic and tells her not to be too sad. She agrees, saying that he's right. It's not the right time to dwell on such things when it's his birthday. She then pulls out a small box from her pocket, explaining that the real reason she came today was to give him a birthday present. Luna opens the box to reveal a beautiful pendant and asks Jin to turn around so she can put it on him. He complies, turning around and saying okay. She fastens the pendant around his neck and explains that if he ever finds himself in a situation he can't handle, he should smash the blue gem in the pendant. No matter where he is, she will come to him immediately, so he should always keep it with him. Luna wishes him a happy 9th birthday, and Jin thanks her for the thoughtful gift. A little later, Gilly arrives with a slice of cake for Luna, placing it in front of her on the table. Luna picks up a spoonful of cake and offers it to Jin Runcandle. After a while, Luna says she has to leave. Jin Runcandle wishes her a safe trip. Later, he returns to the secret library, where Muraken notices him and asks about the item around his neck. Jin explains that he received it as a birthday present. Muraken remarks that whoever gave it to him must value him greatly and gift him something so precious. Jin asks Muraken about the pendant's significance, and Muraken reveals that it is an artifact belonging to the demonic beast king, Orkel. He explains that 1,000 years ago, countless people lost their lives attempting to obtain it. Jin is intrigued, asking if the pendant is really that remarkable. Muraken confirms, saying it grants immunity to any magic attack below 5 stars, enhances the holder's magical abilities, and possibly even has a summoning function. Jin Runcandle is impressed, commenting that he seems to know a lot about such artifacts. Muraken explains that he is familiar with the pendant because he was active around the same time as its original owner. He adds that he's assuming the source of the powerful energy that just visited gave it to Jin. Jin confirms that his eldest sister came and gave him the box, asking if Muraken could feel her energy from this distance. Muraken says yes and suggests that his sister might have sensed his energy too. Jin is surprised and asks if that means she's aware of his powers. Muraken reassures him, saying she probably won't report it to the clan and he shouldn't worry. Muraken points out that Luna gave him a valuable gift without hesitation, indicating that she wouldn't betray her youngest brother. Jin asks if Muraken really thinks she can be trusted. Muraken says yes and assures him that Luna is someone he can rely on. Meanwhile, Luna Runcandle reflects that she sensed a strong energy that wasn't there before. She decides that if Jin is preparing something, she should act as though she doesn't know for now. But she silently promises that no matter what Jin does or who he becomes, she will always support him. After a while, he reflects on his time at Storm Castle, thinking it would be boring, but he gained much from it. He earned his father's recognition and expectations, received the Phoenix Heart from Mary, connected with Luna, and even met the guardian dragon, Muraken. These were things he couldn't have imagined in his previous life. Now, as he turns 10, he sees how much has changed. While practicing with Night Khan, he acknowledges that his time at Storm Castle is coming to an end, and he's preparing to return home. As he attacks Khan, he expertly blocks his strike, reminding him that there's still much to learn. He acknowledges that, indeed, he's someone the Patriarch would take an interest in. While he usually evaluates others during training, now it's his turn to be evaluated. Night Khan announces that they'll conduct today's training here. Jin Runcandle agrees. Night Khan addresses him as a young master. Jin Runcandle inquires if there's an issue with the training they just completed. Bowing down, Khan expresses his gratitude for the opportunity to instruct him all this time. He mentions the limited time left until Jin leaves Storm Castle and assures him of the best training until then. Jin Runcandle appreciates his commitment and agrees to be under his care until departure. After a while, Jin Runcandle is playing with candle fire and exclaims, finally. Gilly, watching him, asks if it's not hot. He replies that it just feels like warm water to him. She comments that she's glad Lady Mary's gift is working so well for him, adding that she's only heard about the effects of a Phoenix Heart, and this is her first time witnessing it in action. He agrees, saying that he thinks he's absorbed about half of it and expects to absorb the rest in a few years. Gilly moves toward the closet and informs him that they will be leaving the castle early the next morning, asking if he needs anything in advance. He says, yeah, okay. She then asks if she should pack his books separately. He replies that he plans to read them on the way, so that would be fine. She acknowledges and asks if there's anything else he would like her to pack separately. He says just those books are enough. Gilly responds, saying she will prepare strawberry pie for dessert that evening. Jin thanked her and mentioned that he was stepping out for a moment. She asks if he's going out right now, to which he apologizes and assures her that he will be back soon. After a while, Jin Runkandle returns to the library and calls out for Mirakin. Mirakin replies that he's there. Jin reminds him that they're leaving the castle tomorrow and asks if he's prepared. Mirakin enthusiastically confirms, saying he's been waiting for this day for a long time. Jin then asks how Mirakin plans to follow him without being noticed. Mirakin dismisses the concern, saying that as the legendary Black Dragon, even in his weakened state, he can handle this with ease. He assures Jin that he'll follow discreetly to avoid detection. Jin is curious about Mirakin's weakened condition, asking why he has only mentioned it now. Mirakin explains that he has been sleeping for 1,000 years, and it takes time to regain his full strength. Jin wonders if he can recover his power, to which Mirakin confidently replies that he will grow stronger as Jin grows stronger since he's his guardian dragon. Mirakin encourages Jin to hurry up and become as strong as Temur, the first patriarch. Jin Runkandle recalls that the Runkandles were originally a family of magic swordsmen. He remembers hearing it from Solderit in his previous life. The Runkandle family was initially known for their mastery of both magic and swordsmanship. The first patriarch was considered the strongest magic swordsman of all time, but this is a fact that almost no one knows today. Mirakin explains that the reason the Runkandles banned magic and imposed strict rules about focusing solely on the blade was because of a humiliating covenant from 1,000 years ago. He mentions that people might still praise him for being the family's guardian, but they would likely be quite uncomfortable if he actually made a public appearance. 1,000 years ago, however, people would have been overjoyed at the sight of him and would have been in awe of the fact that he was associated with the most respected figure in the world. Jin Runkandle wonders if the Runkandles would really react that way. Mirakin asks if it sounds too far-fetched, adding that in any case, he will make sure to hide well to avoid being noticed. Jin Runkandle agrees, saying, "Okay, got it." Mirakin then points out that if someone comes to check his usual spot and it's empty, they might get suspicious. Jin asks how he plans to handle that. Mirakin explains that he can use draconic magic to create a duplicate of himself in his usual resting place. Jin Runkandle questions what would happen if the duplicate is discovered. Mirakin reminds him that he's the Shadow Dragon and that creating duplicates is so simple he could do it in his sleep, so there's no need to worry. However, he emphasizes that since he's not yet at full strength, maintaining the duplicate for an extended period will be challenging. He'll do his best to keep it going, but it will get easier as Jin gets older and he regains his strength. Jin Runkandle thanks Mirakin for being considerate, adding that he wishes Mirakin would show him a bit more respect. Mirakin replies that he might have if Jin had known him better. Jin kneels down and mentions that he brought something special today. Mirakin asks what it is. Jin reveals that it's a pie made with the first strawberries of the year and some wine he managed to sneak past Gilly. Mirakin lights up at the sight of the treats. Jin warns him not to get drunk and create a strange duplicate or something like that. Mirakin asks who he thinks he is, calling Jin an adorable little idiot and stating he's glad to have him around. Mirakin then asks if he can meet Jin's nanny, to which Jin responds that he'll think about it. After a while, Gilly holds Jin's hand and warns him that when he gets back home, he can't expect the same carefree and uneventful life he had at Storm Castle. She explains that, yes, he was busy with training here, but things will be much more challenging and hectic at home, and she won't be able to cook pies for him whenever he wants anymore. Jin tells her not to worry, that he's aware of what's ahead, and that he'll work hard when he gets back home. Gilly nods, saying she will also do her best to support him. Just then, Guardian Knights Jerome and Holtz arrive, announcing that they are at his service and will escort him until he reaches the Garden of Swords. Jin acknowledges and says he's in their care, then signals them to get going. As they leave, Jin thinks to himself that on October 30th, in the year 1790, he finally left Storm Castle and headed to the Runkandle's main house, the Garden of Swords. After a while, Jin Runkandle sits in the carriage with Gilly. She looks out the window and remarks that the snow seems to be piling up quickly. If it continues, they might need to wait it out in a nearby village, as heavy snowfall could prevent them from using the transfer gate. Jin acknowledges with a simple okay. Suddenly, the carriage begins to lose balance. Guardian Holtz announces that they're under attack and asks them to stay inside the carriage. Gilly hugs Jin, reassuring him that everything will be fine. She reminds him that Jerome and Holtz are 7-star Guardian Knights, and he also has her by his side. Gilly mentions that she spotted about 20 warriors and magicians outside, and there's a possibility that there are archers among them. However, she doesn't believe there's anyone above 7 stars, as Jerome and Holtz are already engaged in battle. Jin insists that they need to leave the carriage immediately. Gilly is surprised and asks what he's talking about. Jin explains that a Guardian Knight of Runcandle would never leave a child of the Runcandle clan unattended. One of the 2 knights must always remain by his side. This either means they're imposters or traitors. Gilly quickly agrees. Jin adds that there might be a hidden device in the carriage, suggesting they need to get out as quickly as possible. Gilly understands and declares that from this moment, as a servant of Runcandle, she will protect him. She takes out sharp blades from her sleeves and warns him that she might have to be a bit rough. She grabs him, leaps from the carriage, and starts running, promising to accept punishment for the incident once they reach the clan's main house. Jin tells her that this isn't the time to worry about punishment, urging her to move toward where the 2 knights are fighting, saying that he has something to check. Gilly asks what he needs to check. Jin Runcandle reasons that if the attackers were targeting him, the best time to strike would have been as soon as he left the carriage. Yet there's an unusual calm. He wonders if the attackers might be their allies, suggesting they should proceed with caution. Gilly acknowledges his point, agreeing that something feels off. Meanwhile, the vice captain of the 3rd Corps of the Black King mercenaries instructs his group to find Jin Runcandle and orders the 3rd group to block the left side. Jin Runcandle spots them and realizes that his suspicions are correct. Gilly notes the leaf emblem and the black beast emblem, identifying them as belonging to the Yuta clan, a magic clan from Middle, and the Black King mercenaries. Members of the Yuta clan notice them and announce that Gilly McCrallin and Jin Runcandle have been located, confirming that Jin is alive. They instruct their group to prioritize the protection of Jin Runcandle. The vice captain approaches Gilly and Jin, stating that he is with the Black King mercenaries and that they were sent to rescue Jin upon request from the Runcandle clan. He denounces those who tried to harm the young master, vowing to ensure his safety. Jin Runcandle realizes that it wasn't a betrayal. The attackers must have been imposters. Real 7-star knights wouldn't struggle against the ambushers like this. Gilly demands to know who they are and orders them to reveal their affiliation and objective. Jerome, one of the imposters, dismisses her question, sarcastically asking if she'd expect them to tell the truth to a Runcandle dog. Gilly turns to Jin Runcandle and asks what they should do. He instructs her to kill one of the imposters, then cut off the arms of the other and bring him to him. Gilly follows his orders, killing Jerome and cutting off both arms of Holtz, then dragging him by the hair toward Jin. Jin remarks that his opponents underestimated him. He mentions that becoming a Runcandle nanny requires one to be at least a 7-star martial artist, indicating that if someone wanted to assassinate a Runcandle child, they should have sent at least 3 or 4 8-star knights. Holtz sneers, telling Jin Runcandle not to make him laugh. He claims this is just a warning, and that the era of the Runcandle clan is coming to an end. Jin counters, saying that he actually prefers it that way, hoping for the era of Jin Runcandle instead. Holtz shouts, "Glory to the great Zipfuls." Jin Runcandle ponders about the Zipfuls, recalling that they're a clan of magicians who rule the other half of the world. Unlike the Runcandles, who pursue the pinnacle of swordsmanship, the Zipfuls aim for the peak of magic. 1,000 years ago, when the first patriarch of Runcandle died, the Zipfuls imposed a humiliating covenant on the Runcandles that banned the use of magic. As a result, the Runcandle clan had all their magical abilities sealed. To the Runcandles, the Zipfuls were a literal 1,000-year-old enemy, Jin Runcandle reflects. He deduces that the audacious attack must have been carried out by a follower of the Zipfuls. He tells Gilly to dispose of Holtz, noting that he's not worth questioning. Gilly acknowledges with a simple understanding. Holtz hurls insults, calling Jin an arrogant idiot and demanding that he be killed already. Jin considers the Runcandles and the Zipfuls to be eternal enemies, and the Zipfuls frequently commit acts of terror against the Runcandle clan. However, today's attack seems different from their usual activities, suggesting it might be the work of extremists acting independently. Something feels off. Jin remarks that no matter how convincing a disguise is, it should be difficult to fool a 7-star martial artist. He wonders if someone else could have interfered, creating this confusion. Gilly informs Jin Runcandle that she's done as he instructed. He praises her and then turns to Mirka, the vice captain of the Black King mercenaries, asking if he's the one responsible for providing them cover during their escape. Mirka confirms that he is. Jin acknowledges his help, saying that once they reach their home, he will mention Mirka's efforts to the clan and they will be properly rewarded. He then asks Mirka to ensure their safety until they reach the transfer gate. Mirka agrees and reflects on what kind of kid Jin Runcandle must be. Despite being a child of Runcandle and only 10 years old, this is his first time leaving the castle, yet he carries himself with such composure and authority. Mirka wonders if this demeanor is a sign of something remarkable about him and recalls the words he spoke earlier, finding them unusually mature for a child his age. He recalls that Jin Runcandle mentioned wanting to bring about the era of Jin Runcandle, realizing that this wasn't just a child's fancy, it might actually be something more. Mirka, the vice captain, calls out to everyone, instructing them to mind their actions and avoid using crude language until they reach the gate. A warrior questions why he's suddenly giving such a strange command, noting that they've never been strict about that before. Another warrior snaps back, telling him to just shut up and follow orders. Gilly addresses Vice Captain Mirka, saying she thinks they can start moving now. Mirka agrees, announcing that it's time to get going. After a while, Gilly asks if it's okay to just leave those imposters behind. Jin Runcandle assures her that it's fine. Whether they're found dead or alive, they will serve as a warning to others. He adds that she's been doing a good job. She thanks him and mentions that if they walk for about 2 more hours, they will reach a village. Jin is relieved, saying they will need to wait there until the snow stops. He tells Gilly not to be upset about the escort's failure, explaining that it wasn't her fault. Even Night Khan, who is a 9-star, didn't notice the imposters. He adds that it would be even harder for a 7-star warrior like her to detect such deception. He suggests that it's not a significant issue since it also taught him the rules of escorting as a guardian knight. Gilly apologizes, feeling responsible. Jin recalls that Gilly, who was his nanny in his past life, always shared her fate with the child for whom she was responsible. The Runcandle clan had looked down on her because of him, due to his lack of talent. Despite that, Gilly never once blamed him. She had always remained loyal and caring, even when others treated her unfairly because of her association with him. He remembers the day he was exiled from the Runcandle clan. Gilly was exiled along with him. She apologized, saying she was sorry she couldn't serve him properly, bowing her head in regret. He reflects on how self-blaming she could be and how he doesn't want to speak harshly to her. But things are different now, and Gilly needs to toughen up. Gilly reiterates that she will accept any punishment he decides for what happened. Jin tells her not to blame herself and orders her to put the incident behind her. He reminds her that although she's his nanny, she's also his only guardian knight at the moment. If she gets caught up in trivial matters like this, it could affect her ability to protect him in the future. He insists she shouldn't make him repeat himself, asking if she understands. Gilly promises to do her best to correct herself and is touched by Jin's concern. She realizes he said those words just to encourage her to stay focused, so she resolves to stay alert and avoid causing him any further trouble. He thinks to himself that he's glad to see her mood improve. It seems she's cheered up. After a while, they arrive at a hotel. The receptionist warmly welcomes them and inquires about the number of rooms they need. Mirka responds that they will need 2 rooms. Jin Runcandle considers that those fake guardian knights may have interfered, leading to this situation. He recalls Transformer Bouvard Gaston, who possesses the unique ability to transform perfectly, a privilege of dragons. However, not all dragons can execute this ability flawlessly, making Bouvard exceptional. He has a history of using his transformative skills for nefarious purposes, causing chaos. As Jin moves toward his room, he ponders the possibility of Bouvard's interference. If Bouvard is indeed involved, matters would be complicated. Jin reflects that he hasn't attracted much attention thus far. In his past life, he was arrested by the Vermont Special Forces at the age of 20. While Bouvard could potentially be useful as an ally, he sees no reason to align himself with someone who has previously threatened him. Jin Runcandle considers that before Bouvard gets into bigger trouble, He should check if anything has changed from his past life. Gilly says she'll be outside if he needs her, then leaves him to sleep. Later, Jin Runcandle is woken by a noise while sleeping. He complains about the commotion and is annoyed at being disturbed. He wakes up and thinks that despite all the training he did at Storm Castle, it's still too much for a 10-year-old body. He wonders about the source of the noise. He looks toward the window and is shocked to see a cat. He exclaims, asking if that's really Mirakin. He recalls that Mirakin mentioned he would conceal himself and follow Jin without being noticed. It suddenly makes sense that Mirakin has transformed into a cat to stay undercover. The cat lets out a loud meow. Jin quickly apologizes, saying he didn't mean to startle him and that he wasn't expecting this kind of transformation. He then opens the window to let Mirakin in. The cat jumps inside and transforms back into Mirakin. Jin Runcandle comments that he expected Mirakin to blend in as a horseman or a servant. Mirakin responds that if he did that, the clan's knights would have noticed him immediately, so turning into a cat was the safer option. Just then, Mirakin's foot gets caught in a floorboard, causing him to fall forward and hit his face on the window. Gilly rushes in, having heard the commotion, and asks if everything is all right. She sees Mirakin and immediately grabs him by the neck, threatening to tear him into pieces if he doesn't explain who he is and what he's doing there. Jin tries to calm her down, saying, "Wait, Gilly." Mirakin seems unfazed, focusing on his love for strawberry pie and acknowledging that they've finally met. Gilly asks what he's talking about with the pie reference. Jin realizes they're in trouble. Jin Runcandle introduces Mirakin, stating that he is the Runcandle's guardian, the Black Dragon Mirakin. Mirakin, however, seems more interested in Gilly, calling her his precious strawberry pie. Gilly, realizing she was disrespectful to a guardian, quickly bows and apologizes, asking for forgiveness. Mirakin, in a light-hearted tone, assures her there's no need to worry, saying he gladly forgives his strawberry pie. Gilly, confused, asks why he calls her that. Mirakin enthusiastically explains it's because she makes those wonderful, perfect strawberry pies. Gilly turns to Jin and asks if Mirakin is the reason he's been requesting pies every day. Mirakin invites her to sit down so he can explain further. They all sit down, and Gilly remarks that much has happened without her knowing. Jin Runcandle apologizes for keeping things from her, saying he's sorry for tricking her all this time. She reassures him, expressing that she's overjoyed to learn about his exceptional talent, his contract with Solderit, and his connection with a dragon. It makes her proud as his nanny. Jin then cautions her that she's now involved in keeping Mirakin's awakening a secret, reminding her that the clan can't know about it. He asks if she understands. She acknowledges and assures him she'll be careful. Mirakin chimes in, telling her not to be too nervous and calling her strawberry pie. She thanks him for his concern and asks if the loud noise earlier was from his transformation undoing. Mirakin admits that it was because he tripped. Gilly turns to Jin and asks if they can really trust him. He responds with a shrug, saying, "Well, probably." At the Middle Kingdom transfer gate, Gilly thanks the Black King mercenaries for their assistance. She assures them that the compensation for this job will be paid by the Runcandle clan at a later date. Mirka, the vice captain, thanks her in return, mentioning that it was a good experience for them and that they look forward to seeing the future of young Runcandle. Mirka has a question, asking Gilly why someone with her exceptional skills left the McCrallan clan to become a nanny for Jin Runcandle. She replies that there's no significant reason worth mentioning. Mirka nods, apologizing for his rudeness. Gilly assures him it's okay and bids him farewell before heading off. After a while, they enter the transfer gate, and a gatekeeper greets them, saying, "Welcome to the Middle Transfer Gate." He asks for their identification. Gilly shows him a badge and requests that they be sent to Carlon at the Hoffister Alliance. The gatekeeper, surprised, asks if she's a servant of the Runcandle clan. After confirming her identity, he gestures and says, "It's an honor to meet you. Please, this way." He leads them to a special seating area and explains that if they wait there for 2 hours, the transfer will be complete, allowing them to arrive at their destination in the blink of an eye. He wishes them a comfortable journey. They sit down on a sofa. Gilly expresses concern about how Jin Runcandle will manage to keep Lord Mirakin's existence and other matters a secret from the rest of the clan. Jin asks if she's referring to magic. Gilly confirms, saying that's the one thing no one in the Runcandle clan would tolerate. Jin reassures her, saying he will be careful to hide it. Just then, Baradan Zipful arrives with his guardians. Jin sees him and recognizes the golden dragon emblem as the mark of the Zipfuls, thinking he looks familiar. He wonders why he has to encounter such troublesome people in Huffister. He notices Mirakin, who is in his cat form, and Baradan approaches, calling him a good boy and inviting him to come closer. Mirakin reacts by scratching Baradan's hand, causing his guardians to get angry and call Mirakin a vermin. Baradan dismisses their anger, saying it's just the behavior of an animal, and that he likely provoked the cat by picking a fight. He also notes that it would be unwise to draw a sword in front of a run candle, given the potential repercussions. He sees them and assumes that the older boy tried to provoke him out of curiosity, but since there's no noticeable reaction, he concludes that the youngest son of Runcandle has a calm and composed demeanor. He introduces himself as Baradan Zipful and extends his hand, offering a formal apology for his earlier rudeness. Jin Runcandle recognizes Baradan Zipful as a genius magician and a strong contender for the future leadership of the Zipful family. Baradan has gained admiration among young magicians due to his extraordinary skills and noble character. To Jin, he had always seemed like a distant figure when he was merely an ordinary magician. The fact that they are meeting as children feels unexpected to him. He acknowledges that he, too, was curious to know what kind of person Baradan was, and he's relieved to find that Baradan isn't just another fool. Baradan Zipful, somewhat surprised, asks what gave him the impression. He remarks that if they had drawn their swords due to his joke, he would have had to wander around Huffister without escorts, and he might have ended up losing at least 2 fingers. Baradan Zipful responds by saying that it's a pretty scary joke, then asks if Jin Runcandle thinks he's joking. Baradan Zipful